Welcome to The Businesswoman. I'm Amanda Rose and I'm here today with Jen Dalitz, the CEO of Sphinx. This woman's mission is to get as many women as possible in high power positions in organisations. How are you today, Jen?
I'm well, Amanda.
Now you've done it all. You've been an author, you're a management consultant, speaker, workshop host, and you know all about women in the workplace and how important it is to have women in the workplace. I'd like to know what you think needs to happen to get more women in those high-powered positions.
Where do we begin, Amanda?
How much time do we have?
Look, I got interested in this area of expertise when I was working as a pretty generalist management consultant with large companies in Australia and internationally with a global firm. I just started to observe that there wasn't as many women I was dealing with at those executive levels when you go in to do a strategy or you do a piece of work. And then later on, when I actually had accepted an executive position and realised sort of there wasn't more senior people above me. But you know, you don't really notice it until you stop and think about it. And certainly for women today, there's more opportunities to them at the entry level than there's ever been.
Yes.
And women form the majority of our university graduates, more than 57% of commerce graduates, more than 67% of law graduates. It gets higher in medicine, gets higher in other areas. So women are graduating from our universities, entering the workforce and thinking, what's the problem?
Yes.
It's only when you stop and look at the more senior levels and you consider, why aren't there more women in decision-making positions? And that's where the crux of the problem starts to come. What we can do about getting more women there, that's the question you asked.
The complicated question.
Complicated question, it's very multifaceted. If I was going to pick just a couple of things, I would say to organisations, of course you have to change the way you do things around here, because there must be a reason why women aren't progressing. And sometimes just the hardest thing about getting ahead in business for a woman is the fact that when she progresses through the ranks and becomes more experienced and more senior in the organisation, she's more different to her peers, because we know in Australia that only 8% of executive management roles are held by women in our top companies. So when you get to those senior level roles, there's a less than 1 in 10 chance of there being a woman at the table. So just being different makes it a little harder to break into those ranks, different to the incumbents in those positions. So embracing that difference, making sure that men and women have equal access to all development opportunities. So this can be something that's overlooked in organisations just because of the career interruptions that women historically have more than men when they leave their careers, even if only temporarily, to raise families and to do different things. That timing of that often coincides with major career development opportunities in our large companies. So that's around about the time when fast track programs are being offered. It's around about the time when people might be considering doing an executive MBA or advanced education. And so you really need to look at your profile of who's getting that development and say, is it 50-50? Is there gender balance? When we look at how we remunerate our people, we need to look at the particularly variable remuneration pool, the bonus pool.
Yes.
How is that being allocated? Is it rewarding men and women equally? Some organisations are very good at offering flexible work arrangements for women, which keeps them in the workforce. But what women observe is that as soon as they add those flexible terms to their work, they get paid less. So they don't often get variable bonuses. And I've been in conversations with executives where I've asked exactly for that data. Being the management consultant, I come in and say, where's the data? Who's getting paid what? How's the bonus pool split? And I, in one organisation, observed that there was a direct correlation between working full-time and getting a bonus. In other words, if you didn't work full-time, you did not get a bonus in that organisation. So we have to look at those things which you wouldn't typically think about. You think, well, we've got the right policies in place, but when we look at the actual practices and how they play out, is that working against women? Do women reach a point where it's not working for them?
Yes.
And if it's not working for them, it's probably not working for the organisation either.
That's right. How receptive are organisations to listening to advice that you give them regarding those topics? Are they keen to say, look, let's try this, or they are committed to making the change overall, for profit reasons or because they think it's wrong or right?
Oh look, on the whole, organisations currently are very committed to this outcome. I mean, I've had an interest in this space for about the last 10 years, but began my interest really as a personal interest, and turned the Sphinx website, which was a portal for business women to connect with one another and share ideas. I turned that from a hobby into a business about 5 or 6 years ago now, and I really observed during that time, since I began running workshops and I began hosting mentoring programs, and I began coaching and mentoring executives on how they can attract, keep and develop the right women on their teams. I really have noticed an absolute uplift in the level of interest, the level of commitment, and actually some of the results that are coming out from organisations around this. The fact that organisations are beginning to measure it is the reason we're starting to see results. In big companies, what gets measured gets done.
That's right. That's a very good point. I like that. Do you think flexibility, I mean, there's a lot of drop-off with women when they reach that middle management. They're at an age where they might want to go and have children, or they feel the pressure, or whatever the reason. Do you think flexibility is one of the largest factors and the reason why there's such a high drop-off? I mean, let's face it, so many of them are leaving to start their own businesses for that actual reason. If there was more flexibility in the workplace, would women stay? Would they end up in senior positions and then on boards?
Look, I think it depends. Many organisations are offering flexibility. I'm working with a management consulting firm at the moment that has been very flexible in terms of being prepared to bring senior people in on very part-time basis, which I would never have seen 15 years ago when I began my career in management consulting. I worked in industry first and then moved to management consulting, and it would have been absolutely unacceptable for anyone to work anything other than full-time in a professional services firm until very recently. And so, I mean, I'm noticing stark differences like that simply didn't exist before. And actually that's for men and for women, because that's an interesting trend that's starting to emerge as well. See, flexibility in the past was a woman's issue. A woman needed to work part-time in order to, sort out our crazy education and childcare systems which don't correlate very well at all with the business environment. So if you have children, you're suddenly facing, 12 or more weeks a year where you've got to
work out what to do.
And exactly. So flexibility has to come in many forms. And I mean, I'm a big advocate of saying that flexibility is a mindset. And you need a boss who is going to give you that level of flexibility that you can actually ring when it hits the fan at home and say, I just need some flex here. That to me is more important than, or as important as part-time hours and other arrangements. But I don't think that's necessarily the one thing that's holding women back. I mean, we do need to overhaul our childcare system in Australia. We do need to look at, the paradigms that we're working within for, and the fact that families are changing. In many families, both parents recognise a sense of accomplishment and achievement from working, and they want to both work, and in some circumstances they both need to work financially, but it is what it is. That's the new real, and we have to work out therefore how do we put in place institutions that support that. And that's what we've still got to work around.
Yes, we've got a lot of work to do there, haven't we?
Well, we do.
Now, you're the author of Little Wins for Working Women. Should we be expecting big wins for working women shortly?
Oh, I think we have big wins for working women. That's no doubt about that. The reason I wrote that book was when I first began hosting mentoring roundtables, these sessions I used to get together small groups of women and get them together with senior successful women in business, and I was always amazed at some of the women I would bring in, and they'd sort of focus on feelings almost of failure, or not having achieved 100% in every aspect of their life. And so that drove me to write Little Wins for Working Women, the fact that we can focus on all the wins in our life, and they may not all be in perfect kilter at every moment of our life, and but you focus on where your wins are today and don't worry about where things aren't quite perfect today.
Well, it's a fantastic piece of advice and great to end on. So Jen Dalitz, thank you so much for coming on The Businesswoman. We really do appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. That was Jen Dalitz, the CEO of Sphinx. You're with Amanda Rose on The Businesswoman, and we'll see you next time.